Right, so olive bread. Quite a simple one this, because I've reduced the proving time. So we're not going to do preheated ovens yet because we need the bread to prove for a little while, but not too long. Usually with bread, you make it, you prove the dough in a bowl. Proving just is basically waiting in a warm area for it to grow and rise and the yeast to activate. And then you tend to, when it's grown, you tend to knock it all back down, shape it as you want it and as a loaf, and then let it prove again. So we do 2 proofs. This, we're only going to leave it once. So it's a bit of a rustic loaf, very tasty with a really good crust. Right.
Shelley's asked, can I use gherkins, and if so, how much?
Different flavour, so as long as you like gherkins. I would say for the olives, we're going to use about 6 large olives. So I would say with gherkins, they are quite a powerful flavour and they are pickled. So maybe just a few, but it really is up to you. Just try not to put too much of the moisture in. A little bit's fine, but then it's just how much you want in your bread. So the sorry.
How much water are they going to need? Because you
yes, I didn't. So you want 340 ml of warm water. Ours is still quite warm, so it should be okay. But 340 ml of warm water. You want it. If you did the cinnamon bun workshop with us, we did the same back then, and it should be like body temperature, like a warm bath, but not too hot, because we don't want to kill the yeast. But we want it to be warm because it activates the yeast a bit more, and we want to make this quite quick. So I'll let you just warm up, get your warmer water.
If they're using sun-dried tomatoes, how much?
So about 50 grams. Again, this is to taste. So if you want a really tomatoey loaf, you can use 100 grams. And if you just want a faint taste of tomatoes, then use less. But the olives we're using about 50 grams, so I do the same.
Max is looking very good in that apron.
There we go, Max. Right, Max. So when you've got your water, the first thing we're going to do, or Max is going to do, is put a good teaspoon of sugar inside. Okay, can you do that for me?
Yep.
For Mark's sake, 340 ml of warm water.
Yeah, 340 of warm water, and then you put a little bit more in it because they're quite. That's it. And then a good teaspoon, like a heaped teaspoon of sugar. It can be granulated or castor. We're using castor. And then give that a stir in, Max. You want it that the sugar dissolves into the water.
Kate has asked, can she add cheese?
Yeah, I do.
And you froze apparently on the tomatoes amount. How much is that again?
So it really all depends on how tomato you want it. As an average, I would say about 50 grams. If you want it to be really packed with tomato flavour, you could go up to 100. It really is how much you want in there. Well done, Max.
It's just about dissolved.
Is that gone? Excellent. Yep. So that was a teaspoon of sugar into the warm water. And then to that, you're going to add your yeast. Now, the reason we add sugar is because, again, it helps to activate the yeast. So you're going to want between 7 and 10 grams of yeast into your water. If you're using fresh yeast, you can use a little less, so more like 7. And if you're using dried yeast, I'd go for more like 10 grams. So that is a 5 gram spoon. So you can do 2 of those.
Okay. And
then put that into your water.
Is there any difference between dry yeast and dry active?
No, it's fine. Just yeast is yeast.
And a few people have just joined us.
Yeah, a bit more than that.
Problems. Can you just recap what we're doing?
Yeah, of course. So it's all I've done so far is well done, Max. Is put 340 ml of warm water into a jug, and then we've added a good teaspoon, like a heaped teaspoon of sugar, and mix that in to dissolve into the water. And then, yeah, if you get the spoon again, and then we've just put in between 7 and 10 grams of yeast. So that can be dried or fresh. And you just want to mix it. You won't find this dissolves like the sugar, Max. This will just sit on the top. But as long as it's in there, you can take your spoon out. That's it. You'll find that the yeast settles on the top. But what we're looking for is that warm water and the sugar will make the yeast activate, and it will start to grow. It'll form like you'll see all the yeast start to froth up. I realise I can't say froth up on the top.
A bit like a volcano erupting.
Yeah, a very slow one.
Yeah.
But you'll see the bubbles. There's nothing like to see. It just looks like a bit of mucky water at the moment with a few bubbles and sediments at the top. But we're going to leave that for a minute to let that grow. So I'm going to put that, I don't know if you can see it on camera from there. Not sure. So Mr. Boozy Bakers isn't saying a lot.
Lucky Yeast had to use brown sugar as no white today.
Should be fine. Right, so whilst the yeast is doing its thing, we're going to add the flour to a bowl. That is 500 grams of flour. Now, if you are using less flour because you don't have enough, add less water to your mix. Do it by consistency. So Max, tip the 500 grams of bread flour. This is bread flour, guys. Into the bowl. Well done. Over that, that's it. And now, if you bought a kit, you've already got salt in your flour, so you don't need to add any more. If you didn't buy a kit, you're going to want to add a teaspoon of salt. Get a new teaspoon. That's it, a dry one. That's it. Max, when's the time to eat bread, do you reckon? When it's still warm or cold?
As soon as it comes out
of the oven. Right. Okay. So, teaspoon of salt in there.
If you're using active yeast, which does not need to be activated in, does it not need to be activated in water?
To be honest, I tend to do the same thing anyway because I like to have all the liquid together with the yeast to pour in. Because if you add yeast to salt or directly onto sugar, it can start killing it. So I would just go with it. I mean, I've done that with fresh yeast as well. It's a good way to get it to just start activating even more. Right, now we're going to need the olives. So Max, you've got a chopping board that I've put aside for you. You can put any olives in, or as I said, if you don't want olives, now's the time to use whatever else you're putting into it. We're going to put, so you've got your dry ingredients basically there. You've got your yeast. I don't know what yours is looking like, but my water had cooled down because we were a bit behind, but you know, it is still bubbling. It was warm enough, I think. Right, I don't know if they can see us, so let's just move these aside. Ooh. Bring your olives here. Move this to one side. So your packs of Ollie's olives should have about 6 olives in there. Do it as you like, but I would say, Max, actually I wouldn't do it that way. That's it. So where the whole of the olive is, I would slice like a cucumber almost, but very stubby. Oh, sorry, Max. So that's it. So you're chopping on the circle. And Max, you should be able to do a number of slices for each one. So you could
I like
do.
big chunks though.
I know you like big chunks.
It's very
but
nice.
Because we're going to put this into the flour, if you cut them up, if each olive is about 4 or 5 slices, it makes it easier to knead in. But if you prefer, like Max does, to put big chunks in, then do that.
Amanda said, can I add the cheese and red onion now?
Yes, you can.
And Gilly's treated herself to new strong white flour from an online miller.
Very good.
The flour is so fine and soft it smells divine.
Oh, nice. You're right, Max.
It looks so good.
You try not to eat them, Max. You know, if you start from that side, it might help you.
Really?
You just want to have big slices, don't you?
Yeah.
Max, where did you get your love of olive bread from?
Spain.
Were we all a bit obsessed with the olive bread coming out?
I don't think many of the people got some.
They'd bring it out, wouldn't they, in these big baskets?
Yeah.
And it was still warm. And then we'd all go and devour it. And we'd size up, like, because they had the most massive olives that were in the bread. And we got a bit of olive envy if one of us got a huge olive in it, didn't we?
I did. I got this massive chunk.
It was gorgeous. So how many olives have you done there, Max?
I think 3.
Okay, I'm going to keep going then.
Can I say a big thank you to everyone who's supporting each other, because people have come on late, they're asking, and people are...
Oh, brilliant. So I'll do a run through as well now. So if you have just joined us, don't fret. We got some warm water, 340 ml, and we've put a teaspoon of sugar into the water and stirred it in. We then got 7 to 10 grams of yeast, and we poured that in, gave it a little bit of a stir, and then we've just left that to sit and activate on the side whilst Max cuts up his olives.
And eat them.
Max! That's one less olive going in. You don't need to use all those actually. I did put extra out for you. And then in a bowl, we've got 500 grams of bread flour and a teaspoon of salt. There's not a lot actually in this, but we are going to do a workout again because, you know, it's important to keep fit whilst we're eating all these lovely things. So you're going to do the workout in a minute.
Workout?
Yeah. Keep going. You're going to put some green olives in that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I just like the black ones.
So if you're using something different, please, we'd love to hear from you what you're doing. It makes it interesting when we hear from you guys. Well done. That's fine, Max.
Yes.
Leslie's come up with a whole bunch of suggestions for people if they don't like olives.
Oh, go on then.
Cheese and caramelised onions.
Yeah.
Cranberry pecan.
Ooh.
Hazelnuts and dried cherries.
Oh, yum.
Cheddar jalapeno.
Oh, that's a good one for you.
Yeah. Cranberry, orange zest and sliced almonds.
Oh,
Loads and loads.
yummy. All over to your house for bread. With a nice bit of Wensleydale on the side.
In your yeast, you didn't put the salt, did you? You just put the sugar?
No, don't put the salt in with your yeast, it will start to kill it. Put the salt in with your flour, and if you have a kit, if you bought a kit from us, the salt is already been put in your flour, so you don't need to worry about that.
Sue thought it was 70 grams of olive. That's fine if you've got 70
Yeah,
grams.
that's fine. I think originally I put 70, and then I actually, a lot of the time I do things by like what I fancy, so I do a handful. I'm not brilliant at weighing things out when I do things myself, so I put down what I thought it was, and then I actually made it again, and I was like, actually about 50 grams is fine, but it is to taste, so if you want more, add more, like Max's, because I'm pretty sure that's over 50 grams now. Max, I think we can stop. Yeah, I think that can be the last one.
Okay.
You can eat some though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Sue says she only has 70 grams of olives. Should she add sun-dried tomatoes? 30
No,
grams?
that's fine. 70 grams of olives is fine. If you want to add sun-dried tomatoes, you can. It'll just be a pack full of flavour, lots of different things in your bread. It's no problem at all. So if you've got more, go ahead.
Kate's doing what Max is doing and eating them as well.
He will. He will eat so many olives. And the worrying thing is, where we go to we have a wholesaler send us a lot of ingredients that we use for Boozy Bakers. Mr. Boozy Baker has got a little bit carried away, and he buys massive tubs of olives, and these guys go through them very quickly. Right, Max, have we got a big spoon over there?
If you're adding cheese to olives and tomatoes, how much?
So again, I would stick with about 50 grams. If you're doing cheese, keep a little bit aside to put on top maybe. That would be quite nice.
Zarika accidentally added a bit of sugar to the flour. Does she need to throw it?
No, that'd be fine, don't worry. It's quite resilient bread making. As long as you've got a nice active yeast and you don't kill it off by adding salt to your yeast, you're fine. And if you haven't got weighing scales, you don't really need them with bread. Just have, if you know what consistency you're looking for in your bread, you just add the water until it's got to that consistency and stop. And if it goes sticky, then just add a bit more bread. So as long as you've got the ingredients to hand, it's a pretty chuck it all in really. Right, Max, could you stir that sugar, you stir the salt into the flour, please, so that it's a bit more combined?
This time I'll be careful, because last time there was loads of
You
flour
did flick the flour around a bit, didn't you?
Linda's asking about put in meats like prosciutto in it?
Absolutely, go ahead. Anything that you like the idea of having flavour in the bread will be fine. The only things you need to be really worried about with bread is adding way too much moisture. So if you've got something that's very absorbent of and watery, you're going to obviously release that into your bread. But anything that is dried or cured or just not a huge water base, perfect, go for it. Right, Max, can you add your olives to that for me? Yeah? You get to eat the bread as well, so you don't need to worry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Should we add more olives then?
I think we're good on the olive front. You can keep them back and eat them as we go.
Okay.
Excellent. Do you want to give those a bit of a stir in? Just coat them in a bit of flour.
They look good.
Right. So going back to your yeast mix with the water, ours has definitely got more bubbles on the top. If I'd warmed that a little bit more, I think it would have got even more frothy. I think I'm going to struggle to show it to you. Is that...
Your comments in the way, you lift it up a little bit.
Oh, comments in the way. There we
That's
go.
it.
So you can see there's some bubbles. You might have more than that. I do find when you get the right temperature water and it's like yeast likes it, and I think that is dependent on the yeast as well, it can really go for it. But as long as it's bubbling, we know it's active, we know it's ready. So I'm going to pour this in to the flour. So pour your yeast mix into the flour. Sorry, Max. And then start stirring gently so we don't have it flicking everywhere.
Like I did.
And then just combine it with a spoon. And what you're looking for is for it to become a solid, a nice soft dough. You don't want it to be too sticky. A little sticky is okay because we're going to need it on the sides.
Don't make it into a liquid.
No liquid.
Claire says her yeast isn't as bubbly as it was for the cinnamon buns. Is that okay?
Yeah, it should be fine. As long as it's bubbling and it's not sitting there flat, you'll be fine.
Lochalal, could you put garlic in and should it be dried or fresh?
Yeah, put garlic in. That sounds amazing. What was the option, sorry?
Dried or fresh?
You can do either. Fresh would be nice, but if you've got powder, you can do that. Yeah, whichever you prefer, whatever you have. Just be careful how much you put of the dried powder in.
It needs more water.
No, it doesn't. I can still see it's wet.
And for Tora, she asked if you put the olives in.
Yeah, so the olives went into the bread, and then the olives have gone into the flour, and then we've just poured in our yeast water mixture. So it's all in there now. All your ingredients are in. Well done, Max. So build your muscles up, Max, without taking me out.
The spoon goes flying.
Go for it. Well done.
Anne's asked for a recap on the water and the yeast mix.
Yeah,
a couple of people asking
no
about that.
problem. So in the jug, we've got 340 ml of warm water. To that, we've added a teaspoon of sugar and given it a stir to dissolve the sugar. And then you can add between 7 and 10 grams of yeast. To be honest, I'm never that fussy with how much. You tend to need less fresh yeast to dried yeast. So about between 7 and 10. Stir that in and then set it aside for it to activate. And you'll just start finding that the bubbles start forming on top. And then whilst that's been to one side, we've measured out the flour and the salt. And you've cut up the olives. You've eaten olives if you've gone. And then we've just combined it all, the olives into the flour and then the water yeast mix.
No, it's like this.
Christine asked, can you use wholemeal bread flour?
Yeah.
And Angela said, will gluten-free flour be okay to use?
I don't know much about gluten-free bread flour. The key bit is it needs to be bread flour. If you don't have bread flour, my advice would be go do the soda bread workshop that we put on. It's on YouTube. and you can make a really nice loaf. You should be able to use gluten-free on that. You can add your olives still, but it doesn't need yeast to activate it, but it does make a good loaf, and I know you can do that with gluten-free. I'm not a bread maker for as a job with cake makers and sweet treats, so I don't know much about gluten-free and in bread. So it might be something that it's a bit more of a look it up and see how to do that. I'm afraid I don't have the answers. Someone else might.
Sue was worried that her water.
Do we have a look?
Yep.
Sue was worried that her water might have been a bit too warm. I don't think it's possible, is it?
Yeah, you can. If it's too warm, if it's too hot, that can kill the yeast. Give it a minute, because I actually find that my yeast activates a bit more when it's just that little bit hotter than I would normally go for. So to see, you might be surprised.
Can you turn these into rolls?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can make them into rolls. If you want soft sides, like the cinnamon buns, you want to keep them quite close together on the baking tray so that they press against each other, and then you'll get nice soft edges. Max, are you eating all the olives again?
No.
Right, once you have, it's not a pretty dough at the moment, but once you have a dough like that, this is quite wet, but Mr. Boozy Baker did warn me that he thought he put a bit more water in the jug than he was supposed to. So what we'll
Are we
do,
going to be sticking our hands?
only by a few mil, yeah. So we might need a few more grams of flour in ours, but that's no problem. Every flour is different and they absorb different amounts. So how are we doing? And we have a thumbs up. Is everyone with us?
People are with us. Bogdan's asked, can we get hands in there now?
Yeah, you can.
Annette, can I freeze half, and if so, when?
Yes. Well, you can freeze bread when it's baked. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to freeze it when it's made up, but you want to wait until it's an actual dough and then freeze it and then get it out to prove later. More questions.
Sue's also using gluten-free all-purpose flour. She looked for substitutes but decided to go with it. Please let us know how that turns out.
Yeah, you might find it needs a lot more working because it doesn't have as much gluten. Obviously it doesn't have any gluten in it. Let us know. If it doesn't work, I really would suggest going back and doing the soda bread recipe, but I would be really interested. Sorry, Max, can you reach that yellow cup there of extra flour?
How do you know when the yeast is ready to add?
So it should have more bubbles from when you left it, and giving it a few minutes. You should find that on top it's just growing slightly, and just looks a little bit fuller. The sediments have come up more and there's more bubbles, so that'll be fine. It'll keep activating whilst it's in the bread. We just wanted to give it a kick start.
Kay wants to know if she can knead now.
Yes, so I'm just pulling it out of the bowl, and we're going to start kneading the bread and making it into a nice, soft, silky ball of dough. So Max, can I just take over for a second, love? So this is quite a soft dough actually. We might need to add a bit more flour still. If we put it on there, we'll combine it as we go. But it's a bit sticky. So I'm going to press down on the dough and then bring my fingers up and fold it in half. Turn it, press down on the dough. Can they see this all right, Rich?
Yeah.
It's not behind the comments.
It might be just a bit behind.
We might just angle the phone for a minute to show you.
There we go.
So I'm pressing down with my palm in the centre, and then I'm using my fingers to bring the dough up and fold the dough in half. So down, fold in half, and I'm spinning it as I go. Down, fold in half, spin, down, fold in half. So we can speed that up. It doesn't have to be absolutely the same each time, but you do want to try and put some air into it and really get the glutens working and stretching in your dough. Sorry, Max, I'm going to leave this back with you in a minute, but it's quite sticky still. So I am going to just add a bit more. If you find that it's the same and you've got quite a sticky dough, then just keep add the flour to the point that it doesn't feel so sticky in your hand. Ooh. There we go, that's much better. So it's still soft, I don't want it to be hard, but it was just sticking quite a bit. I don't know if Mr. Boozy Bakers is looking at your comments or not.
Can you keep the dough in the fridge?
Yeah, you can add it to the fridge and then pull it out overnight and just get it back to go. Oh, Max, you can do that a bit more. And then get it to prove once it's out the fridge. You can do that, that's no problem. Just keep it covered with some cling film. You need to knead for about 10 minutes. If you have a mixer and a dough hook, you can do it that way. Just make sure you don't put it on for any longer than that. You can't apparently over knead by hand, but you can over knead if you do it by a mixer.
Anne's asked what size tin, please.
So we're not doing this in a tin, we are doing a free-form loaf. So we will make it into a round or a slightly longer shape and just put it on the baking tray. If you do want to put it in a tin, then a £2 tin should be fine.
I think I put too many olives in this.
Or I haven't actually tried to put it in a tin, to be honest. It does grow quite a bit. It might be a bit big for a £2 tin. You might have to do a couple of rolls and then the rest in a £2 tin. But I'll just do freeform and just slice it up. That's what we do, isn't it? We're trying to keep it as much as we can, that there's not too many things that I need. I know we've done a few technical challenges, if you like, but I've tried to keep it that they're quite simple, easy recipes, just to throw everything in and put it on a tray and just enjoy it, really.
We've had a few asking what kind of cheeses are people using.
Yeah, so if you wanted to, you could put feta cheese inside, or a hard cheese, or parmesan.
Parmesan.
No, parmesan's a meat.
Oh.
I know you like that too. Hard cheese is always good. You could put a bit of goat's cheese in, I suppose. That could be quite nice.
I quite like putting red Leicester in things because it's got slightly nut.
Well, there you go. Mr. Boozy Bakers recommends red Leicester. So how is everyone doing? Are you all busy kneading? Have you got any comments?
Yeah, don't do your wristing again.
Yeah, it's been quite good actually. I say that now. I had to use the splint a little bit when typing. If anyone out there watching has ever released a Kindle book to paperback, please get in touch, because the ebook obviously is now live, but the formatting on a paperback is something else. So me and Mr. Boozy Bakers are going to look at it after this workshop. I've got another cake to get in the oven, and then we're going to sit down and see if we can get it done. But it is driving me a little bit potty now. So the whilst I'm kneading, I might as well talk to you. The recipe book won't be on our shop. If I can try and find a link from the shop to Amazon, I'll do that, and I'll certainly put the link up on the Facebook page. Just adding a bit more flour because it's still a little bit sticky. Yeah, you can go on Amazon, you should be able to find it. Mr. Boozy Bakers did. How did you find it? Did you just type in Boozy Bakers?
Typed in Boozy Bakers.
You'll see me on the front cover looking like this anyway, because we just took the photo straight from the island. Well, you'll see what I've done with the front cover. It's like you're watching me.
Your mum's being much more aggressive in her kneading, is that okay?
Absolutely, no problem. If you need to take out some aggression, it's very therapeutic kneading.
Lynn's using mousetrap, cheddar, jalapenos and salami.
Oh, there's some places I want to go and visit. Have a bit of a lunch there. Sounds lovely. You want to do some more of this?
Sure.
Excellent. Look, my hands now, they're like all covered and I want to have some wine still. You go for it.
Varys has asked, do we need the oven on yet?
No, you really want, once you've got it so that your dough is nice, soft, silky ball, shape it. So if you want rolls, divide it up. I tend to cut it with a knife and maybe do 6 or so rolls, maybe 8 if you want smaller ones, or just shape it into a round or a slightly oblong shape. And then you want to cover it with some cling film very loosely and leave it on the side for about an hour, and it should about double in size, and then you can put it in the oven. So just depending on how warm the room is that you're in, it may take a bit longer or even a bit less time. But once you're done, you want to put it in at about 200 for conventional, 180 for fan. And I haven't written down gas mark, Mr. Boozy Baker. What's? I want to say 6.
I want to say 6 as well.
I think it's 6. But quite a hot oven. And then bake for half an hour. You get quite a dark crust to it, which at first sight you think, oh, that looks a little bit done, but you get the most beautiful crumb inside, and the crust is beautiful. Doing well there, Max.
Yeah, you've been told to get your muscles working, Max. You've also got comments that you've got a very sophisticated taste in food.
He has. Both kids have got very different tastes. The things that Max doesn't like, I can't really try and encourage.
Cream, butter, and sometimes even cake.
Yeah, he's not. It's no reflection of my baking, by the way.
No.
But since he's a little boy, one of the first things Max told me was, I don't like butter. So you don't have butter in sandwiches. It's not in things. You're not allergic or anything. You just don't like the texture. But cheese sauces, cream cakes are a no. Just unhealthy food, basically, is a bit of a no for Max. But shellfish, olives, hot food.
Mussels.
Yeah, you're fine with all of that. And then Erin is a bit of the opposite, isn't she?
Chocolate, cake, pasta, pizza.
You're right, you're looking a bit sticky there.
Yeah, it started to
Tora,
get
this is her first
wet.
workshop. Are they every week?
Yes, so if you're new to Boozy Bakers and our workshops, we have been doing them every week since April. We will continue doing them into the foreseeable future. Next week we are making ricotta pancakes. They are delicious. We make them regularly in the Boozy Baker household for a nice brunch. The recipe ingredients will be up. What am I trying to say? They're up on the event list. No, they're already up there. I did 3 events at once. I was very organised. So you can find the details for that online, and then join us back on Facebook next week at 2 p.m. For ricotta pancakes. And then I've got a couple of ideas for upcoming workshops. I just need to stop making this recipe book so that I've got a bit more time to look at future workshops. So hopefully that will be done this week. For anyone, go on, sorry.
Cling film, does it need greasing?
No, if I were you, I'll show you what I'm going to do. I've got my baking tray with some baking paper on it, or parchment paper. I'm going to shape my loaf into a little bit of an oval shape. It's like an almond or an eye. And then I'm going to use a bit of flour and sprinkle it on top to stop it from sticking to the cling film. And then what you want to do is put your cling film loosely over the top and leave it for about an hour. If it needs longer, it's not a problem. But if it looks like it is rising, start preheating your... I can't do my cling film until I've washed my hands. Start preheating your oven before you put it in. Get it to the right temperature. So that was Sorry, Mr. Boozy Baker is very distracting. Thank you. Right, ideally, wash your hands before doing that. So yeah, put it in at 200 or 180 fan or gas mark 6, I think it is, and then bake for 30 minutes. When the timer's up, take it out, turn your bread upside down and give it a knock. If it sounds hollow, it's done. If it doesn't sound hollow, put it back on and put it back in for a few more minutes and then repeat until it sounds hollow.
Linda in Florida, it's very warm, so it may take less time.
Yeah, you might just be able to make, I don't know, 5 minutes and it's done. To be in Florida. I hope you're okay over there though, and lockdown isn't affecting you too much. I don't know, I've been a bit out of it this week on recipe books, but I hope you're all okay. Yeah, so if you leave it on the side, you'll probably be done really fast, and then just put it in the oven, 30 minutes, and you've got your loaf, and you can use it, let it cool down a little bit, otherwise you're going to burn yourself, like releasing the steam, but you can pretty much use it straight away, and it will last. It could last a few days. We've
Not in our house.
No, when it starts to dry out, it'll make good toast. Or just spritz it with a bit of olive oil and put it in under the grill. That's rather nice. But good fresh loaf. I know you'll just
You'll
eat
never
it.
make it.
No. But that's it really. That's all you need to do. If you're cutting it into rolls, as I said, you could probably make about 6 decent rolls with that. Put them on a tray, probably 2 fingers apart, so that when they grow, they touch each other, and then you'll get that nice soft sides to them. If you want a crusty roll, then put them a bit separately apart, and they will bake all the way round, so you'll get a nice harder crust.
How long to prove?
So about an hour. That's what I find in this kitchen. It is a warm kitchen. By the afternoon, we do get more sunlight through, and where we've been baking, we tend to keep a lot of heat. So you might find, I know my mum finds that it's a couple of hours in her kitchen. So don't panic if it hasn't risen straight away. And the other thing is, you can come back to it and just check that cling film's not sticking to it. You don't want it to stick. You can go and wash your hands if you'd like, sweetheart. Well done.
Annette's asked, can she add cheese topping just before baking?
Yeah. So you can add herbs, cheese. You could even, if you wanted to stud with extra olives for the look. Ours has got a few olives poking out there anyway, but if you wanted to stud with a few more, that's no problem. That sounds lovely. So yeah, go for it. It's not a long bake, so things shouldn't burn really in that time frame.
Do you need to score the top?
Max, it's a bit loud, love. So in the soda bread, we did a big score. You can, I've got to admit, I'm a bit of a lazy baker. I think I should change my name. I just tend to leave it as it is. It's not a massive loaf, so I don't feel it needs the scoring to cook for longer. But if you want to prettify it, you could do it all sorts. You could plait it, you could score it along the top, but you don't need to. You can just leave it as it is.
Can you repeat the oven temperatures, please?
Yeah, so 200 or 180 for fan, or gas mark 6, I think it is.
There's a lot of asking, should it be moved to a warm place? And Laura's also said she finds an airing cupboard is good.
Yeah, airing cupboards are always good.
Just find a good shelf.
Yeah, just anywhere that it's just slightly warmer. If you've got an area in your house that is particularly warm, you can move it to there. If you have a conservatory or something, you could, if you've got a freezing cold house and you don't think it will ever rise, you could always put the oven on ever so, almost like with the light on, and just the lowest temperature you can. I know our microwave, we have a kind of a funky microwave that does a dough proving, so I could use that, but to be honest, I get great results just from leaving it on the side. For anyone that's really enjoyed making this bread, if you want to challenge yourself further, you could leave the bread in a bowl. You still need to knead it, but put it back in a bowl, let it prove, and then bring it back, knock it back down and leave it to prove again, so you do it twice. But to be honest, I don't feel this bread needs it. We've added so much flavour, and it suits being a rustic loaf. Leave it for an hour, bake it, and then show us your photos. We'd love to see it.
If dividing it into 4 or into rolls,
Yeah.
How long should you cook it for?
So I would probably go for about 20 minutes and then check it. They might still need a bit longer, but if you're dividing it and they're smaller, definitely check after about 20.
And did you say when ready after baking, tap it, and if it sounds hollow, it's done?
Yeah. So when I said when you get it out, it should be nice and gold. It will really have changed colour on top. Ours goes quite dark and leaves a good crust. Turn it upside down carefully, don't burn yourself, and give it a knock. If you tap it or knock it, it should sound hollow. If that's how it sounds, it is done. If it doesn't sound like that, then put it back in for a bit longer.
Sue's using a tea towel instead of cling film.
Yeah, that's fine. You can use a tea towel. You can use slightly damp tea towel. That's no problem. Just anything to keep it covered and stop it from drying out is good.
Where can they find previous workshops?
Right, so for previous workshops, you can go to YouTube, and then we've got a channel, Boozy Baker channel, and you will find, right, come on Max, help remind me, what have we got? Pizza making,
biscuit making, cinnamon bun making, pizza, did I say pizza making?
Yeah, scones, lemon meringue pie, carrot cake, banana loaf,
tea loaf,
well done, whoopie pies, and this Lady in Florida. You'll have to tell us what you think, because we got the we didn't get the recipe, we got the idea and the inspiration from visiting Florida, and then made our own red velvet whoopie pies when we came back. So yeah, lots on there. We've also, anyone that's thought, I've loved today but I don't want to bake anymore, I'd like you to send them to me, you can find lots of sweet treats, from boozy marshmallows to cookies and brownies and loaded cake boxes, and they are all available on our shop, www.boozybakers.co.uk, as are our aprons. And the recipe book, for anyone that's would like to have a look at it or buy it, it's available on Kindle, Amazon Kindle, and that's available now as an ebook, and it will shortly be available as a paperback. I am working on it, I promise. I was so frustrated because I wanted it all done to be able to tell you that both were available, but time just wasn't on my side. We've made a lot of cakes, which I'll be sending photos out on our page recently. So, and in fact, one was literally collected about 30 seconds before we went live. So, so it's just trying to fit everything in.
Can you repeat the cooking times, please?
Yeah, so it's 200 to conventional, 180 for fan, or gas mark 6, I think it is. I haven't been able to check it, but I think it's gas mark 6. And that's for 30 minutes.
If you do score the loaf, would you do that after proving it?
Yes. So let it prove first, and then before you put it in the oven, then score it.
We're getting lots of thank yous for another wonderful people. Looking forward to next week. So thank you for joining us.
Me too. It's really instant. Next week, I mean, I like to do it that if we've done lots of sweet, then we do a savoury, or if we've done something difficult, then we'll do something a bit easier. And this, obviously, you've got the proving time, so you've got to wait on this one. Next week is instant, so you're going to have all your toppings and your plates available to dig in as literally as you got your. We'll have our hob back. And I'll be making pancakes, and before I'll literally be putting them on the plates, and the kids will be eating them.
Before that,
What?
we have to show them a flip.
I'm not flipping the pancakes. The kids are constantly asking me to flip pancakes. They're not that kind of pancake.
Claire's got her mum with her this weekend, first time in 4
brilliant.
months, and she's just asked me, why boozy?
Yeah, I know we haven't done any boozy bakes, but basically, when we started, I made some gin and tonic cupcakes for some friends, and they loved them. I said, you ought to do this as a business. So
You did.
I did. I came back down and said to my husband, who's behind the camera, I've started a business. And it went from there, and very quickly we started other flavours. We've got about 40 different boozy flavours that we offer in cakes. We make cupcakes, large cakes, wedding cakes, and then I started the online shop. So we've got brownies and boozy marshmallows and boozy loaded boxes and cookies. We do events across the south. we were before lockdown. So it's just grown, but we have found that there's a lot of people that still want non-boozy. So as many boozy cakes as we do, we still do vanilla and chocolate a lot of the time. And we do offer some non-boozy varieties on our shop as well. But that's where the names come from. And I'm going to be making, I think it's a gin and tonic cake this afternoon. But what other flavours can I tempt you with? We've got strawberry daiquiri,
Baileys and Malteser.
Baileys and Malteser. Espresso martini, salted caramel liqueur and chocolate, JD and Coke. There are so many boozy flavours that we offer. So that's where the name came from. But we were doing this with kids, and we know there's lots of kids watching, so we just thought we'd do some fun workshops. I have got ideas about doing a few boozy bakes another time, but we'll see.
Bogdan says an excellent workshop. Also, thank you for the shortbread last week. I have become very popular with my girlfriend's family.
we like to help. That's brilliant. I'm really glad that you're enjoying these. We do recognise some of the names popping up, and it's lovely to have you back with us each week, because you're what makes this fun. So thank you very much for joining us. If there's not any more questions, then I think we will leave you to your bread proving. And put it in the oven, and then send us your photos of your lovely bread. You've been getting very imaginative with your pictures as well. And we will see you next week, if not before, because I tend to pop up online a bit, for ricotta pancakes. Thank you very much, guys. So thanks.
Thanks.